I would now request Professor Kalyan Arun to speak a few words.
I know I am the youngest person on this dais.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember in early 80s, as a young reporter, I had gone to Voluntary Health Services Hospital, where I had to go and interview Dr. Krishnamurthy Srinivas. I don't know whether he remembers. I don't think he will remember me, but I remember him always. And of course, Professor Tandavan, you have 40 years there, and 40 years ago I was in the Madras University doing my MA in journalism. So under Dr. Sadasivam. I have met you on a couple of occasions like that when for our lab journal we used to be writing for about various departments. I have come and interviewed him to write about his department in our lab journal. Because I have never had the opportunity of meeting Justice Prabha Sridevan, but I have had the pleasure of reading her regularly in the Hindu. Ma'am, I really love the way you write and also the insight that you provide in topics that you deal with. Now, as far as this book is concerned, just excuse me a minute. There were two things. There is one thing about the book which attracted me immediately. One was in the title, "Do You Really Die?" I love that word "you." Like, there is a reason for it. I come from a family which has been long associated with Ramana Maharishi, and one of Maharishi's tenets was that you destroy the I in you. And the second one is die. I have seen death in my life a lot. Not just death in the family, but as a reporter, I have seen death. I have reported deaths. I have been very close to death. I have seen people very close to me dying. Now, other thing I did when I got the book was, I usually, unless it's a fiction. If it's a fiction, I start at the beginning. If it's a non-fiction, I open a random page and start reading, and then go back and read the whole thing. When I opened this book, I saw it was page 144, and it mentioned Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins was my hero. Coming from a spiritual family, I had somehow become a total atheist. I became a total atheist when I was in school. We used to come down to Chennai for then Madras for our vacation in the late 60s. And one of the first things I would do was look for any place in Madras where Periyar was addressing a meeting. During 67, 68 and 69, the 3 years that, during those 3 years, I came, whenever we came to Madras, I used to go to what is now Periyar Thidal. Heard his version of discourse. Okay, very fascinating for me at that age. I was about 16, 17, very quite fascinated by what he was saying, and like I said, it was also the time when I had opted for biology in my school, and it was during the days that came across when we had to study the Darwin's theory also, Darwin's theory of evolution. All that gelled in properly. Okay, my atheism, the denial of God, and Darwin's theory, and of course subsequent readings and hearings that of people like Periyar. Okay, that made me even stronger. But everything changed overnight. Because even with all these things going on, I was a little bit of, my mind was always in a turmoil. 1972, once again back here in uh, in Madras for my vacation, and that time, uh, we still had our house in family house in Tiruvannamalai. So my uncle who had retired from the railways at that time, he was living there. So we had gone there, spent a few days. So for us, when we were small children, uh, Arunachaleshwara temple was a place where we could play, a huge place where we could play. Ayaramgal Mandapam was a place where we could find us kids in the evening playing. It was not the religious attraction that was there, but more of a playful thing. But this time, my uncle suggested that why not I climb the hill with him, come to the top of Arunachaleshwara hill. I wasn't so keen on it. I thought, because I always looked at it as a religious symbol, and I was in denial of all religious symbols. But my uncle said, why not treat it like your a hiking expedition? So I said, okay, I joined him. Midway up the hill, there is a well which is called the Malapal Tirtham, which my uncle explained to you why it is called Malapal Tirtham. That is because the water is slightly turbid, a little whitish in color. So there were, and குடம் இருந்தது. குடத்தில் வந்து இதில் கிணத்துல வந்து ராட்டினத்தை குடத்தை இறக்கிட்டு we took some water and drank it. Okay. And I was tired, a little tired by then, but my tiredness went off immediately. And by the time we reached the top of the hill, where they light the lamp for Kartika Deepam, where they wear the lamp. By the time I went there, I could feel peace descending on me. I could see some kind of mental clarity as I went up the hill. I think that was the turning point. After I came back from the hill, I never looked at Periyar. But see, what have Professor Dawkins I used to read. I used to read Dawkins, and what impressed me is one of the things that Sri VIswanathan has quoted Richard Dawkins. On page 145, he says, ichneumon wasps have in them the habit of paralyzing but not killing their victim before laying an egg in it. It's easy to see why. The female wasps lay their eggs in live insect prey, such as caterpillars, but sting them in such a way that the prey is paralyzed but still stays alive. The prey must be kept alive to provide fresh meat for growing wasp larva, which is feeding on the caterpillars. And the wasp larva, for its part, takes care to eat the internal organs of the caterpillars in a judicious manner, in a judicious order. Okay, now then he talks about how, what cruelty can this be? Can such cruelty be divinity? Okay. Now, the one thing, after reading all this, one thing that I could really see was the way Sri VIswanathan builds up the scientific argument against the existence of God, and then systematically deconstructs those arguments and says why if it is not for God, why does this happen? Like he says, there is no escape from this. There cannot be a natural selection for a tit-for-tat type, because this can be explained not only by philosophy but also by science, when it says that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Further down it says things cannot be partial in oneself. Basing purely on natural selection, evolution does not answer things scientifically also. Now, let's go back to what Dawkins said about the ichneumon wasp. The larva the larva takes care to eat the internal organs of the caterpillars in a judicious order. It begins by feeding on the fat bodies and digestive organs, leaving the vital heart and nervous system in last, because the caterpillar has to be kept alive till the last to provide fresh meat for the wasp and larva. Okay, it says that the larva goes inside and makes sure that the caterpillar remains alive till it has grown. Okay, now at that time when I first read it, okay, it was all it all gelled with my then atheism. But now when I read it again, and when I was reading it in when I after reading Sri Vishwanathan's book, one question comes to my mind. How does that larva know what to eat and what not to eat, and in what order? How does a larva know that it should not eat the heart and the central nervous system first? Who taught it that? Well, can science explain that? Can science explain why the larva eats only the non-essential organs first and the vital organs the last? That itself shows there is a greater force beyond science which brings everything together. Now there are two things which I read in the past, which have always stuck to my mind, stuck to my heart also. One was in a book called a fiction called A Stone for Danny Fisher by Harold Robbins, where the epilogue talks about, in the epilogue, the protagonist Danny Fisher talks to his son from the cave. It's a monologue, and it ends with a sentence. To live in the hearts we leave behind is not to die. Okay, now that is the Christian that's a I won't say a Christian concept. It is a Semitic religious concept that death is the end. Whereas it is not for the Indic religions. It's not, death is not the end. Now there is another book called Illusions by Richard Bach, in which there is in which there is a quote. What the caterpillar thinks end of the world, the master calls it the butterfly. Okay, as far as the caterpillar thinks, okay, it's the death of the caterpillar, that's the end of it. But then it has evolved into a butterfly. Now, if you look at it, if we apply that to the Indic religions, we find the same thing. Okay, your residence in one body has gone. Your next cycle begins. If there is no belief in, you just can't deny that there is a rebirth. If there were not rebirth, there is a concept in hypnotherapy called the past life regression. Many leading psychiatrists who are using hypnotherapy as a part of hypnosis as a part of their therapy like to go back into the past life of their patients to see why, to whether there is a clue for their behavior or for their illness now. Now, and this is something which is becoming popular in the United States in the last 30 years. Past life regression as a part of psychiatric treatment is slowly, it has, though there is a lot of medical and scientific people debunking it, but the popularity of that is growing. Now that's what we talk about, past karma. Now let me talk about. I normally would not talk about it, politics in such a place like this. But I'm fortunate. I think when I'm talking of past karma, I will need to talk about it. We all know that our former Chief Minister and the DMK President, Mr. Karunanidhi, is an atheist. Okay, people may people may have the doubts about his atheism now, but he has his public persona is that of an atheist, and I have known him in the past when he was a real atheist. Okay. Now, the question that's asked is, come on, we pray to God every day, go to the temple every Friday, Tuesday, Friday, Anjaneyar Gora, Sanikama Anjaneyar Gora, Padu Padinetta Production Mandram, or we do the Sri Chakra Puja at home and all those things. But our thing is like that. But look at that man, he has led such a life. He has been an atheist throughout. He has been a chief minister for 6 terms. And even at the age of 93, his mental faculties are all clear, though he's physically not well. But his sons are doing well in politics. He has amassed wealth. And then where is justice? Where is the karma? Well, that's only simple explanation for it. We were talking about it, the same thing. Then one of my colleagues told me, one of my colleagues whom I respect very much, he told me that why are you looking at what he has been doing in this case? It is his past karma that has kept him in good stead. Now in this birth, whatever sins he has committed, he will suffer for it in the next karma. Okay, many people, I don't know how whether any of you believe in the Nadi Josiam. That's very popular. That's been made quite popular in Vaidiswaran Koil. Okay, when you go for Nadi Josiam, what happens? People, the thing is, when they do everything, when they start reading about about the predictions or whatever about you, then they come to a stage where they say that what you were in the past, in your past life, and what sins you had committed in the past life. That's why you are suffering these sins, and for those sins you have to do these parigarams and all. Okay, parigarams and all, whether you want to do the parigarams, that's another matter. But there is a basis in what could be a basis in the that you might have done in your last previous birth. Now, everyone is talking. I think. Professor Krishnamurthy Srinivas talked about a couple of his patients. I would like to mention only one patient, and that's my own father. In 1992, he was repeatedly going down with jaundice. Then we discovered that we did an endoscopy and found that there was a growth that was in the canal bringing the pancreatic juice from the pancreas to the liver. So that was because of that the liver was not getting activated properly. So we had a biopsy done on the growth, on the tumor, and the 3 samples were taken. One was sent to the Apollo Cancer Hospital, which had just been started. Other one was tested in GH, and the third one was sent to Cancer Institute, Adyar. And all 3 samples, came back with a result positive. Then they said, okay, we'll try to surgically remove the tumor. When they tried to do that, for some reason his liver had been so badly affected, but the doctor did not believe that if any surgery, if they did any surgery, then he would collapse on the operating table. So he just sewed him up again and left it. And the doctors gave him anything between 6 months and 2 years to die. He died last year, 1992 to till now. And the best part is, for every 3 months, we were taking him for a review. Endoscopy was done, scanning was done to see how the growth was. The tumor was growing the first 1 year, it kept growing. Second year it stopped growing. Third year it had stopped. Third year again it stopped growing. Fourth year it had, still there was no growth. Then we did that biopsy again. It was no longer malignant. The tumor was no longer malignant. How do you explain this? How do you explain all this? Okay. Maybe there is someone up there who does it. But coming back to this book, the essential part here is the death. Do we die? And to me the answer is no. And what Sri Viswanathan has done it is in a very scientific way. He has explained why science can be wrong and why all our own Vedic literature can be right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Kalyan Arun. Before we move on, Mr. K.R. Srinivasan from Kalyanagar Association would like to honor Mr. T.S. Viswanathan. A gentle reminder, kindly switch off your mobile phones or put them on silent mode. Also, the books are now available for purchase in the stall outside. And at the end of the session, you can get it personally autographed by the author himself. Now, I request author T.S. Viswanathan to speak about his book.
Swagatam. अत्र उपविश्य चेन्नई महानगरस्य पूर्व न्यायाधीशा श्रीमती प्रभा श्रीदेवन महोदया, औषधराजा औषधचक्रवर्ती मनोतत्व निपुणः श्रीमान कृष्णमूर्ति श्रीनिवास महोदयः, अस्माकं चेन्नई महानगरस्य विद्यालयस्य उन्नतविद्यालयस्य पूर्व उपकुलपति श्रीमान महोदयः आर तांडव महोदयः, पत्र लेखन निपुणः आचार्य श्री कल्याण अरुण महोदयस्य महोदयः, अत्र उपस्थितः पंडिताः पुरुषाः महिलाः सर्वेभ्यः मम हार्दं स्वागतम्। किञ्चित् वाक्यम् एकनिमिषं द्वे पर्यन्तम् अहं संस्कृतभाषायां वदामि, अनन्तरम् एतत् पुस्तकविषये अहं वदामि। कारणम् अस्माकं भारतदेशस्य संस्कृतिः संस्कृत भाषया एव उज्जीवयति, तत् एकविषयम्। परन्तु अहं वदामि तमिळ् भाषायां, तमिळ् भाषा इति चेत् संककाले स्थितः तमिळ्, अद्यकाले अद्यत्वे अस्ति तमिळ् खलु, एतत् तमिळ् नास्ति। अस्माकं भारतदेशस्य चक्षौ ये द्वे भाषा। अग्रिमकाले संगणकयन्त्रम् इति चेत् कंप्यूटर विषयं वा अथवा अन्तर्जालं विषयं वा व्यापाररीत्या विज्ञानरीत्या संस्कृतभाषा एव अधिक उचितभाषा इति नासा विज्ञानिनः वदन्ति, अहं न वदामि। ते वदन्ति संस्कृतभाषा एव अधिक उचित भाषा, आंग्ल भाषा अपेक्षया संस्कृतभाषायाः विकारम् इति चेत् deviation. कृत्रिमबुद्धिमत्ता भाषा इति चेत् artificial intelligence अतीव न्यूनं, deviation न्यूनम् इति वदति. तदर्थं संस्कृतभाषा एव उचितभाषा. अग्रिमकाले कृपया पठन्तु, अन्यभाषा अपि पठन्तु, तया सह संस्कृतभाषा एव अपि पठतु इति मम निर्देशं दत्वा अहं मम पुस्तकविषये वदामि. As Justice pointed out very clearly about Mahaperiva's astral bodies, that was the concept when I was in US. Dr. Brian Weiss was a very famous psychiatrist. Dr. Krishnamurti Srinivas also knows about him. He had written several books, and one of the lovely books was Many Masters, Many Lives. Authentic book, videographed. He did a psychiatric study of his patients. One of the patients was called Catherine. When he did a study, he found astounding results. He could not believe. He could not believe. He belonged to the old Orthodox religious family, but he could not believe the results. The result is, she was stating at what Mahaperivas was stating, that I went into the light, I got guidance from my masters, I decided to choose my body to pay off my debts, and I came into the body. That book, Many Masters, Many Lives, long time back, touched my heart. So then I did my investigation. Fortunately, coming from Kerala, from a place for Trichur, knowing Malayalam also, which is nothing but Sanskrit in a different way, and I myself studied Sanskrit from the very young age, I decided to do a deep study with my knowledge. And based on that, I wrote a book, which I shall explain shortly from the Vedic literature. Young Nachiketa boy, 9 years old boy, asks Yama, Yeyam prete vichikitsa manushye asti iti cha eke na ayam asti iti cha eke etat vidyam anuchishtaah tvaya aham varanam etat varam tritiyah. The Nachiketa boy was granted 3 boons by Yama, and this is the 3rd boon. Yeyam prete vichikitsa manushye ya iyam pretaha. It is a dead body. Vichikitsa means doubted. Manushye, in the minds of the people. Asti iti cha eke. Even irkindrana. Na ayam isti cha eke. He is not living with somebody else. Etat, this vidyam, knowledge, anuchishtaha, to be taught, tvaya, by you. Tvaya, by you. Aham, I wanted to be taught by you. Varanam, of the boons, this is my 3rd boon. Emma kept his hands on his head. Devairatrapi vichikitsa pura. Devas also, he pleads with Nachiketa, don't ask me. Devairatrapi. Devaha atra api. They also had this vichikitsam, which means doubts. Puro, olden times, they had these doubts. I do not know. Nahi suvigneyam. It was not known. Nahi suvigneyam anoho eshaha dharma. Anoho means it is infinite. Eshaha dharma, this dharma. Anyavaram nachiketo vrinishva. Please ask me some other thing. Mama protsahiti ma atisrijya yenam. Yenam, by this. Mama protsadi, mam, yennai. Ma protsihit. Please do not pressure me. Atisrijya. Please give it up. He will not give it up. Nachiketan still persisted. Devairatrapi, he goes on. They also know. You also say, na suvigyayam atha. Vakta, the man who is telling this, you are the best man. Twadrik anyam na labhye. Like you, I will not get another man. And of the boons, this is the best boon. Varanam api, this is the best boon. You have to tell me. I will give you life, he says. I will give you 100 years, I will give you Pashun, I will give you Hiranyam, I will give you wealth, everything I will give you. Please don't ask. The boy persists. And then beautifully Yama discloses, and in the midway he says, beautifully he says, Hantate idam pravakshyami. I will tell you da. Pravakshyami, I will tell you. Guhyam Brahmam Sanatanam. This is in the deepest of the deep caves. Brahmam, this is a Brahma. Sanatanam, oldest. Yathacha Maranam Prapya. When the death happens, Atma Bhavati Kaunteya, he says. I will tell you what happens. And then he explains beautifully. Yonim Anye Prabadhyante. Yonim means it goes into the womb. Anye, of the others. Prabadhyante, enters. Yonim Anye Prabadhyante Shariradvaya Dehinaha. It takes the form of a body. Body of a mosquito, body of a snake, body of an elephant, tiger. It takes the body. Shariradvaya Dehinaha. This Atma. Sthanum Anye Anusamyamti. Sthanum means immovable. Anye, also another immovables it will go. It will go into the rock. It will go into a gas. It will go into a whatever it is, marbles, iron, copper, silver. Sthanum Anye Anusamyanti Yatha Shrutaha Yatha Kritaha. As you desire, as Dr. Brian Weiss found out, the master's guiding Catherine, as you want to pay off your types, your karmic debts, you choose, it enters. It enters. The question of God punishing you will not enter here. So it enters automatically. Katha Upanishad, it goes on beautifully. Katha Upanishad, which I call as Gado Upanishad, was written about 1000 years before Bhagavad Gita. The style of the language, if you enter deeply into the root of a Sanskrit language, the words, Panditas, which I consulted with Mathur scholars also when I went there. We invited Mathur scholars who came to our association also. The style is different. You can find what is a Rigvedic Sanskrit, what is the interim period Sanskrit. These are all 20,000, 30,000 years back, as I have stated in my book, A Search in Secret Hinduism. Bhagavad Gita, what Vyasar says, he also explains. Hey Arjuna, Chanchalam me Manaha Krishna. Arjuna was flabbergasted. He doesn't want. He was completely flabbergasted. He was Chanchalam. His mind became agitated. He says, Jatasya hi Dhruvo Mrityuhu. Fine. Jatasya means of the born, Dhruvam, certain, hi Dhruvam, it is certain, Mrityuhu, death is certain. Sure, all of us know. They come to the next word, which is different from the Semitic religions. Dhruvam, Janma Mritasya, of the dead. Janma is certain. Cha, and Tasmat, therefore, Apariharye Arthe. Arthe means in the meaning of Apariharyam means inevitability, inevitable situations. Na, not. Tvam, you. So shitum, grieve. Arihasi, you do not deserve to grieve. Because for the birth, death is certain. And for the dead, Bhagavan says, birth is certain. That is a cycle. And Emma says further in Kadhopanishad, Ihachet asaktaha bodham. If now, asaktaha, if you do not have the capacity to know this knowledge, bodham, ni bodhya padavillai endral, prak sarirasya visrajaha. Before, prak, before, shariram, visrajam means before you throw off your body, tataha, sargeshu lokeshu. Sargeshu means in the environment, lokeshu of the world, Shariradvaya kalpate. You will come back through the bodies. Simple. And that is what Bhagavan says after 1000 years in Bhagavad Gita. Beautiful words. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. Vasamsi means garments. Digested. Jirnani. Yatha, as it is. Vihaya, you put it off. Navani grihnati naraha aparani. Navani means new. Grihnati means accepts. Naraha means mankind. Aparani, another. Tatha, in the same way. Sharirani vihaya jirnani. Jirnamana sharirattai vittu vittu. Anyani, another. Samyati, praveshikkirathu. Navani dehi. The new udambala poidrathu dehi. So all these Vedas very, very beautifully tally. Bhagavan says in one of the case, he says about his body, that is his birth, which he knows and which Arjuna also does not know. He says in some of the very beautiful verses in Bhagavad Gita, which follows Kadhopanishad line of thinking. Bahuni me vyatithani janmani. Hey Arjuna, there is a science behind it. Bahuni me vyatithani. I spend a lot of bahuni me vyatithani janmani births. Tavacha Arjuna, you also Arjuna. Tani aham veta sarvani. I know all my births before. Na tvam veta. Oh Parantapasvi, you do not know. I know my births, but you do not know your births. That means our Vedic literature very clearly establishes the fallacy of normal human beings thinking themselves as body, that they are born and that they are going to die is nothing but an illusion. It actually does not happen. Let us come to physics now. I will come to physics to prove scientifically what is the point behind my arguments. In 1912 itself, Ian Bell did an experiment. Ian Bell was one of the famous physicists who was a contemporary of Einstein. And then they had what is known as a double slit experiment, where when particles shot through double slits, vertical holes, had a particular type of formation called two bars, like a two ribbons formation. But a wave means not a particle. It was sent through those two holes. It will have a wave formation. For non-physics students, maybe slightly confusing. A wave formation is number of ribbon bands on the test screen. How a wave is formed, they know by number of bands, because it is an interference pattern. It has the top ends crashes, they form a shadow. The bottom one goes and forms those ribbons, those bars. That is called a particle pattern and a wave pattern. Interestingly, scientists want to go ahead of it. They kept an electronic detector before the double slit. And when a detector and they shooting electrons. No, electrons are particles, subatomic particles or particles. When a detector was kept, only it was behaving like a particle. A particle was behaving like a particle. Only two bands. When the detector was removed, those particles behaved like waves. A simple observer kept there changed the behavior of those particles. An observer, you observe those particles, the particles behave like particles. But if you do not observe those particles being shot through those two slits, the particles behaved like wave. On observation, the particles behaved like particles. Without observations, the particle behaved like waves. Who gives them this authority? Well, Thomas Campbell, a very top-class physicist, was surprised. Before that, Einstein did not agree. Einstein said, I don't believe that only on observation a particle exists, and if you do not observe a particle, it does not exist. I don't believe, he says. I don't believe that the moon exists only when I see, and if I do not see, the moon does not exist. Einstein said. Then Einstein called his friends, Podolsky, Rosen. They all wrote a beautiful article called EPR paradox. It's fine in physics. EPR paradox is Einstein concluded and conjectured that there could be a common DNA. A common DNA, there's something disturbing there. Ian Bell did an experiment. He measured one electron, entangled electron here. After several billion miles away, that electron also changed its character when they are entangled. How could something travel at a speed greater than light? They were confused. Finally, Alan Aspect, he gave an experiment and found out in 1982, it changes Mr. Einstein. That is, if the electrons are entangled at billions and billions of miles away, the change of one affects the change of other correspondingly, instantaneously. That means communication between them travels greater at the speed of light. He came to the conclusion. Thomas Campbell, what he did, he did another beautiful experiment for his students about the particle behaving like a wave when not observed. What he did was, he took out 102 covers, a big cover, and then he kept the measurement screen on a paper. 2 papers he took, 2 envelopes. On one, the electronic detector, the results were observed and recorded, taped. Then he went back to the test screen, the results were observed and recorded. Likewise, every envelope contained 2 small covers. Inside those 2 small covers, one is the results obtained on electron detector, one is the result obtained on the back side of the screen. 2 beautiful covers he kept on a very big envelope. Likewise, 102 experiments were done. First cover was taken, 102nd was taken. They observed the electron detector test was good, the screen detector test was good. That is, the particles behaved like 2 particles only, 2 bars of their results were found, first class. Then what Thomas Campbell did, he had 100 covers. He shuffled it like cards. 50 he stacked on the left hand side, 50 covers, big covers he stacked on the right hand side. Then on the left hand side, they opened all the 50 covers. Inside the cover were 2 envelopes. One is the electron test detector result, the other is the screen test detector result. They observed, yes, when the electrons were there, automatically the same normal pattern, that is 2 bars. 2 bars were formed because the electron test detector they saw, the results were they saw. So he said, throw it away. He came to the right hand side pile of 50, opened the one with electron test result envelopes, just took out those envelopes only, did not open inside, did not see what is happening, simply tore it off, burnt it, put it in the river, in the water. And he opened the other 50. The results, screen data result showed they behaved like a wave. They should have behaved like a particle. Just because he has not seen the electron test results hidden in an envelope, he did not open. He simply tore it off and put it in the river water. And then when he opened the other cover of the screen data result, he found all of them behaved like waves. Several bars were there. It is an astonishing feature where science has developed to such an extent that when there is an entanglement, if one body dies, it cannot die. Ramana Maharishi very beautifully, as my friend pointed out, says, if you know the eye is the particle. If you do not observe the eye, you will collapse like a wave. When the root of eye is gone into, then there is no consciousness left, you will dissolve like a wave. On observation, you are eye. When not observed, you are a wave. That is the theory of modern physics. I am not saying absolute test results prove beyond doubt that this is what it is. On observation, you are a person. If not observed, you are not a person. That means when you open our eyes, we see each other. If we do not open our eyes and close and in deep sleep, we do not exist. The moon is not there when we do not see the moon. The moon exists only when you see the moon. Einstein was proven wrong by the latest Thomas Campbell test. This is physics. Let me come to medical sciences. Medical sciences astonish, very, very surprising results. When I picked up some medical journals, went into the YouTube, talked to certain persons, emailed them, astonishing results. One of the finest results was Dr. Bruce Grayson, psychiatrist, University of Virginia. He came to the Buddhist conference 2011 and he gave out a very beautiful test, because those Semitic religions, as Professor Sir James Jeans in his book Physics and Psychology says, in the medieval church belief, God was sitting directly over up Jerusalem. He was passing judgments. God cannot be impartial. God cannot create you. God cannot bring into existence. When an immortality imbibes a mortal thing, the immortality gets polluted. Mayaya bidyatehi anyata ajam na vrajet. He says, only by illusion, the maya of duality is there. It cannot be. And immortality cannot imbibe mortality, because the immortality, it gets mortal by itself. And infinite is infinite, and infinite cannot be plus one. When an immortality assumes an mortality, it expands its size. It changes its character. How can the immortal, eternal thing can change the character? It cannot change the character. Otherwise, then the entire definition of eternal immortality fails. God will become partial. God has motive to create you and judge you. That should not be there. God cannot have a motive. God cannot have a partiality. God cannot have a character. He is all powerful, means He is infinite. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnameva avasishyate. Purnasya Purnam adaya Purnameva avasishyate. It's only Purnam. Infinite is infinite. It cannot be infinite plus 1. Cannot be infinite minus 1. There is no calculation on that. If you define infinite, infinite is infinite. He cannot assume you and me and expand. He cannot. He has to be impartial. He cannot have a motive for character. That is another subject. But what did Bruce Grayson says in the Buddhist conference? There was a very big experiment. The young boy got meningitis and he was in for 36 hours absolutely brain dead. And then what happened? After that, 36 hours, 37th hour, he came back to life. And then he started telling his father, Appa, I had a very good experience. What is that? Something like went into a heaven, Pa. I saw all my grandfathers, grandmothers, and lots of friends, Pa. They asked me to go. And then another thing he said, I saw Sister Teresa there. What? Teresa is the sister of this young boy, studying about 1,000 kilometers from New York. What? The father asked. Yes, Pa, I saw Teresa there, in this strange place, and she asked me to go back to my body. She asked me to go back. This father was surprised. The hospital doctors dismissed it as hallucinations. It normally happens because if your brain is completely under meningitis, it happens. The father was finally, okay, let me go, and I talked to Teresa. He came out of the hospital, just in the next room, gave a ring to the university where this doctor was studying. That university professor who is in charge told, Sir, we were trying to contact you. Your daughter unfortunately died in an accident just 6 hours back. Now this is an event reported by Dr. Bruce Grayson, 2011. It exactly tallies with the findings of Dr. Brian Weiss, who belongs to the Semitic concept of religions. He absolutely now follows Buddhism and Hindu way of life, Hindu Vedas. All these, Dr. Robert Lanza, Dr. Bruce Grayson, Dr. Peter Fenwick. You heard this, another fine, Dr. Eben Alexander. He is a doctor from Harvard Medical School. He himself went into a coma. When the brain is dead, the EEG, the electroencephalogram, gives a number of 3 for a corpse. When a man is dead, the readings are 3. But this doctor had a readings ranging from 3 and 5. After 7 days, he comes back. He regains his consciousness. He's now perfectly fine. Check in YouTube if you want. They have even recorded it. It's a very beautiful debate. Death is not final in 2015. Conducted by the New York Times debating group, in which he openly admits, openly states, shows the medical records. Brain EEG was between 3 and 5. The doctor, he himself is a doctor from Harvard Medical School. He says, yes, after 7 days when I regained my consciousness, I was floating into light. I approached a light. I saw something blissful. He comes back. How can this doctor himself have this finding? Several cases I have stated in my book. Even Dr. Peter Fenwick from UK and his wife Dr. Elizabeth, Dr. Sam Parnia, all these are Nobel Prize winners. They are not ordinary people. They know hallucinations. Hallucination is there. Brain hallucination will be there. Every one of us undergoes hallucinations. But this is something, a strange report. That is what it really pulled me to analyze when physics says, when you observe, proven beyond doubt, you observe yourself, you are a particle, and when the same particle, when not observed, becomes a wave, the moon is there only when observed, And the moon is not there when it is not observed, because most of us think that the moon is there. We go see the moon, then we accept that the moon is there. Right now when we are there, when we are not seeing the moon may not be there for you and me, because we observe ourselves and we are particles. It is honestly true. It is physics, law of physics I am quoting, nothing else. That is what in my final book, in one of my books which I am completing, I am saying the cosmic code in human life is nothing but illusion. Maya mayam akhilam buddhva, says Viveka Chudamani Adi Shankaracharya. Very clearly he says, na antaha, na bahihi, na ghanam, na prajnanaganam, na prajnanaha, na aprajnanaha, adrishtyam avyavahar. That means it is not inside, it is not out. It is neither consciousness, it is not non-consciousness. It is neither the way of drakshya means sight. It is not normal matter. He goes on explaining the Rishi beautifully in Mandukya Upanishad. That means the entire worldly life, there is absolutely no death in the concept of death. What you think? If you think you are a particle, you are going to die. That means you feel that you are going to die. But if you are not a particle, then you are dissolving yourselves into wave. That is what my final conclusion is. Illusion is the basis. As Krog Hagen says, the entire world is illusory. As Dr. Robert Lanza in his book Biocentrism says, you and I do not exist. We are nothing but subatomic particles of vibrant energy. Combined. When the universe cooled down after the Big Bang, matter was formed. Simple. That is only as per your illusion, because you see the matter thinking that it is a matter. Your brain has created the universe. The universe has not created you. Your brain has created the universe. The universe has not created you. Therefore, in the final conclusion, my judgment was, within the frame of illusions, we cannot avoid illusions. We cannot go to the highest Mandukya philosophy and say we are all illusionists or we see illusions. We cannot. We are living as human beings. We have got our daily work to do. Justice has got judgments to do. Doctor has got patients to treat. We cannot escape that. So within that illusions, what is the framework? Every action, there is going to be an equal and opposite reaction. God on the top of it does not know to create you and me. He is impartial. If you regress back as even karma prarabdham, how long can you go regressing? This world started after the Big Bang 13.72 billion years. Scientists at NASA exactly calculate and say the world's gravity will end after 11 trillion years, correctly as the life of our Brahma, calculated by Hindus. I do not know how these Hindus calculated so perfectly well. I am not saying, Carl Sagan, the physicist, says. I do not know how these Hindus calculate so methodically, beautifully the age of universe. It's going to survive for 311 trillion years, means 1 billion is 100 crores. You cannot imagine those lifetimes. How many times we are going to get born or whatever it is. As the Big Bang, the world is expanding, the universe is expanding. In big crunch, it will all contract. And for everything, it will be a zero-sum game. If I am born as a deer, eaten by lion, then I will be born as a lion and eat the same deer. It has to tally. It has to come to a zero-sum game during the big crunch process. Because God, by creating you with different sets, cannot have a motive for creation. Cannot punish you, cannot reward you. He has to be on a blissful state. With this, I conclude, and I thank very much my panelists, my Chief Justice for accepting my invitation, and Dr. Krishnamurthy Srinivas and Dr. Professor Tandavan for giving their excellent foreword on that. It was a motivation for me. And that motivated me to write and complete another book that's called, I told you, The Cosmic Code in Human Life, which I plan to release around August. In the meantime, I thank all of you for patiently hearing this and coming to this function. Thank you all.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes. Can you please identify yourself, your name and...
Yeah, my name is Sundram.
Okay.
If you say the whole world or the universe or whatever common for a person in Africa, for a person in America, for a person in India. There is an uniformity. Now, if you say illusion, it must be haphazard. But it is not haphazard.
Yes, very, very good question, sir. Please, can you take your seat? I understand your, because I want as elderly person. Illusion is the highest philosophy, highest science, which I would like to explain. Now, everything, even your science, is illusion. I will tell you one thing. I saw a movie called Aradhana, and I know that in the middle of the movie, Rajesh Khanna died. I know before going there, that movie is unreal. It was a shooting, it was a cinema. But every second when I was there in the movie, everything, the aspect, the technology, the songs, appeared to me as real. The 3 hour cinema appeared to me as real at every point, not only to me, and everybody cried. Devadas, when I saw that movie in our university, everybody cried. Nothing has happened in reality. The point is your science, you think it is science. But as Robert Lanza, the famous author on the book Biocentrism, any author, any physicist you go to US, any top class medical school, all have converted themselves to Buddhism and Hinduism only because of the philosophy, the science behind that. The science is, you think you exist, I think I exist, I think the moon exists. But I am seeing you, then only you exist, because my brain creates you. The universe has not been created by anybody. Your brain creates the universe. You think you are flesh and bones, but honestly you are not flesh and bones. Scientifically, with electron scanners, it has been proved that every atom in our cell, in our body, is vibration of energy only. Nada bindu kalam only it comes. You are not made of blood. You are not made of tissues. That is the highest form of philosophy. That is what they have proved. That one observation, they were surprised that the particles behave like particles only on observation. If I just close the door and shoot those electrons or big particles, it has a wave formation. How can it happen? Same machine, same place, same detectors, electronic scanners. I am here, I am shooting through those double slits. I find a particle formation of those impressions. 2 bars beautifully coming through the 2 slits. I close the door, make it automatic, or I just see like this. If I don't observe the particle, how can it behave? That is, it is sending a message backwards in time or what? If I don't keep an observer, it behaves like a wave. If I don't observe, it behaves like a wave. What more proof they ask you require in physics, coming down to the minute of quantum physics? What more proof you want? As per physics, whatever you see, the particle behaves like that. So that means you are asking a question. I am seeing you. You are seeing me. The audience is seeing me. I behave like a particle. You feel I am really existing here. You feel I am talking to you. But if you do not observe me, I may not exist at all. That is what Ramana Maharishi says. Go to the I thought, because I is your particle. Now, when you go to the I thought, what happens is the I thought dissolves into a wave. Ramana Maharishi did not advocate you to meditate even on Om, even on any object. He says meditate on the meditator. That means you will not observe yourself. If you don't observe yourself, as per law of modern physics, confirmed physics, you are a wave.
Actually, I would like to mention one incident which I saw in the television in UK. There was a performer in a television program, and it was widely publicized, and everybody was wanting to see that program. In fact, the elucidation that you had given may provide some answer to all of us who are not able to fathom what spoke happened. What he did was, he said that he was going to completely vanish the Statue of Liberty. And he showed, and for all of us as we see the viewers, the statue vanished. And you could not see the statue. Even the cameras were projecting towards the statue. Later on it came. Maybe solidly it was there, but then it was totally eclipsed to the views of the people. before watching the TV.
Correct.
But I was not able to have any scientific explanation. Maybe your explanation.
That is what Thomas Campbell says. If you do not, in hypnotism, you don't make them observe. Yes. My father-in-law himself told me when he was in Japan, this famous magician Sarkar, he came, he was supposed to come at 5 o'clock inside the auditorium. It was 5:05 shown in the clock. 5:05. Then he came and said, "Oh, am I 5 minutes late?" Everybody said, "Yes." "No, I am 5 o'clock. Please see your watches." It showed 5 o'clock. You see, it's a trick of the brain. Hypnotism, this is an incident which my father-in-law told when he was in the army, when he was in Japan. It is a trick of the brain. So actually, it may not be practical for us. So in practicality, you know that you are going to see a movie Psycho and you will enjoy the movie every second, the murder in the bathroom. You will enjoy knowing well you are going for an unreal thing. You know that. I have told you the world is illusion, you will say you will know. But you want to go and see an unreal because you want to enjoy with your senses. But when you go there, you have a terrible headache with you. You cannot enjoy. So I give you an aspro. So that your headache goes, you enjoy the movie. Similarly, these philosophies, we are faced with problems in life. We have headache in our lives. Though we know one of these days we are going to lose our senses and we may not come back. Probably, as per the law of birth and death, we may take another body. We all know. But we have our daily problems. We have our daily practical day-to-day problems. For this, these philosophies help. It is a mental treatment. If you finally think that you have to separate from the body, nothing will be more dangerous than that for you or for me. So it is a medical treatment for the illusion. With this, yes. Yes, yeah. As per the law, under the illusion, your next birth, what Dr. Brian Weiss say, what பட்டமம் கயிறும்போல் பறக்கும் நின் ஜீவனை பார்வையால் பார்த்து படுமுடிச்சு போடடா மூலர் in திருமந்திரம். So what Dr. Brian, I'm not going to Vedas or I'm not going to our own philosophers because nobody will believe. If I say Dr. Brian Weiss, if I say Dr. Robert Lenza, everybody will believe. That is a human psychology. What Dr. Brian Weiss says is exactly as in Chandogya Upanishad. The Catherine Patient reports, she could see even Tibetan Buddhism. I have written in my book. They soul, when it separates, the energy, when it separates from our body, it sees its body. It goes, because all the medical instances I have said, the spirit leaves the body, hovers around the body. Adanada Sradhamla, we have 3 days, they say, and goes on top of a roof. It sees the body, it cannot communicate with the body because it is on a different form. Your 5 senses are different now. The spirit's 5 senses are different. So it cannot communicate. That's why Tibetans are not supposed to cry over the dead body, because the soul will not go through liberation. If it wants to go to liberation, it cannot come into the illusory world. It is once and final chapter is over. Everybody wants their soul to go into liberation mode, not into the cyclical mode. Means again you have to take a born, you have to come and undergo all the suffering, sorrows, pleasures and all. They don't want that. So your soul sees that, and your spirit goes into the light, and then they say it is guided by a master. The master gives the option to the soul, whether you want to take a rebirth or whether, because that Catherine, in one of the tests, she spoke a language 1567 years back, an Egyptian language. How can she speak? Everything is videographed and recorded. So the soul decides, what I want to suffer for 100 days like a deer, or I will be born in the house of a poor man and I want to pay off the debts and clean myself, or I want to live like a prince and then I will see later on in later births. It's all left to the choice of the soul and not to the choice of any almighty. With this, I think time is up. We will thank you. Yes. Thank you. We'll see next time. I give lectures in Mailapur Club or somewhere here on Tattva and all. You can see it in auditoriums. In Mailapur Times or something, you are all welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Appa. Now I request Suraj Vishwanathan to propose the vote of thanks for the day.
By giving gratitude to the Almighty, who determines our birth and death, I would like to propose the vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank the very highly intellectual dignitaries on the dais for keeping away the busy schedule and coming down and encouraging the author and giving really valuable inputs, which I think has touched our hearts and minds. I would like to thank the Bharati Vidya Bhavan for giving the hall for us to have a good book launch. I would like to thank the audience who have come in good number, which is a happy sight to see, and encourage the author, and hope you take a lot of information about life and death from this discussion. Thank you once again. I would request the audience and the dignitaries to please rise for the national anthem.
Dr. Ambika Kameshwar will now render the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जाहे तव शुभ आशीष माहे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे